Are you ready to move from an ordinary life to an extraordinary one where you meet your business goals, create a life that has success in health, wealth, and for self? Then come and join us for our retreat in Byron Bay, Australia at the end of July, start of August 2025, and come and rediscover who you really are. More details can be found at willowhealing.org.
Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today I have the lovely podcaster Alyssa Rogers with us, all the way from America. So she's the host of Uproot and Uplift, which is a podcast dedicated to inner healing. She's a mum of 2 young girls and passionate about healing the inner child. She grew up with a lot of family dysfunction, neglect, and abuse, so she's done a lot of her own healing work, and her desire to help others get to the roots of their deepest struggles and traumas has originated from that. So a big welcome to Alyssa, and we get to flip it, and you actually get to be the one being interviewed today, which is really cool.
So fun. I love it. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
So what inspired you to start your podcast?
Well, man, I feel like a lot of things happened, and it mostly, I think, was one really kind of traumatic moment that I experienced with a family member that it catapulted me into this like deep dive of healing that I felt like I need to talk about this. And within maybe, and I won't go into, too much detail because it is a traumatic thing, but it felt like I needed to voice this experience, not just for me, but for other people to help them heal, because I talk about my relationship with my mother and the wound that I have from not being properly nurtured or guided or cared for by her throughout my entire life. And with that, I just felt like it was my dream all along to start this show. And I think part of it was just kind of almost my own way of healing and getting it out and doing that and having that therapeutic bonus for me, which might sound a little, selfish or whatever. But really it was like, I have a voice and I want to share my story. And I had previously done this retreat in southern Utah, and that's where I live, called The Bridge. And it was just this amazing 3-week-long healing retreat where I deep dived into so much of my past, my traumas, all these different things. And it was that too that helped me realize I've got to do something along this realm of helping other people discover these roots. And then, like I said, having this big kind of catastrophic, like, oh my gosh, this crazy moment where my life kind of felt like it all fell to pieces. It really inspired me to start my show. And so I have a few episodes, my first 3, that go into detail of what actually happened, but that's besides the point. The point is that it took kind of this crazy thing happening for me to realize I can talk about this, because I think for so long I grew up with a family that we didn't want to talk about things. We kind of kept things to ourselves just because that's the way my parents were raised too. And so being able to voice that has just been amazing for me. And that's the reason why I started my show, to help other people and to voice myself and get these things out of my body.
Yeah. And I feel like people don't realize that when you talk about the journey that you've gone through, whether it's exactly the same or not, there'll always be elements that resonate with somebody, and they'll be like, oh, it's not just me. I'm not alone in this. I'm just not the only thing. And then it creates this medicinal effect where they're like, maybe I can change my situation too. Or maybe that healing process will work for me. And suddenly you're sharing this message, which then empowers them to go and heal.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on, because it's just so important to share with other people why we struggle and how we struggle, because if we're doing it alone and we're doing it in silence, then we are going to feel that. We're going to feel alone. We're going to feel like we don't have a voice or that we don't matter. And it's going to make you feel worse, more depressed, all these different things. And so I think something that I learned at that retreat that I mentioned was that you can't really heal in silence. Like, you have to heal out loud and with other people. And starting the podcast was a very vulnerable, scary thing for me to do. And I was worried, like, what if certain family members find out and I receive backlash and, all these things, which has never happened, right? But it was more of I'm going to take this leap of faith and I'm going to heal out loud with other people. And I can't tell you, I mean, it's amazing the opportunities that have been brought to me or the people that I've met. I mean, I'm talking to you and you're all the way in Australia. Like, it's just so cool when you put yourself out there and when you use your voice for good to help others as well. I mean, the world is just at your fingertips. So it's been such a cool, fun journey, and I've loved every minute of it. So I'm super excited that I did it. And I'm excited that you started the podcast for you, because I know I was listening to your first episode and you were talking about how it was like, I just felt like I needed to do this. And that's how I felt.
Yeah. And it's like, and a lot of people who I coach and work with as well, they're like, oh, but I feel like I should do this. I'm like, and why don't you? Just do it, whatever. Give yourself permission to fail and to suck, and it doesn't matter. You learn from it, like you learn that, oh crap, I forgot to hit record. Can we just go back?
Yep.
Or, oh no, the sound cut out for 2 minutes. Hang on, can we just do that bit again? And you just go, whatever. It's just fun. It's just part of being human, and we just roll with it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love it.
So what's been your favorite topic that you've had a discussion about, or favorite guest you've had on your show?
Ooh, okay. Well, so I recently just finished a series all about chronic pain and talking about the deeper healing from chronic pain, because my chronic pain personally was really what catapulted me to heal. Yeah. My pain forced me to take a look inside, because I was chasing relief from all these different, like, outside things. I would go to doctor after doctor or, therapist or whatever it was, and asking them, like, fix me, and then when they couldn't, I'd go somewhere else, fix me, and I'd shuffle out all this money. And it wasn't until I started really looking inward and kind of was presented with this idea of, like, what if this is actually emotional? That I was like, oh, and I started getting results. And so I've loved talking about chronic pain. And my favorite guest about chronic pain, he's the founder of The Bridge, this retreat that I mentioned. Yep. And his name is Dr. Darren Brooks. And he just is so phenomenal. And you can listen to my episode with him. We talk about chronic pain and chasing relief. And I feel like this concept doesn't just apply to chronic pain, but it applies to any struggle that you have in your life. Because if you're constantly just chasing relief and chasing whatever it is that's going to provide you with some sort of numbing, basically, then you're not getting to the root of what you need to do, the deeper issues. Maybe there's trauma. Maybe there's, who knows what it is. There's something, though. You got to peel the layers. And I've loved that. And then I've also really loved just talking about inner child work and healing my own mother wound. But I would say my favorite guest so far has been Dr. Brooks, just because I know him at a personal level. Yeah. Some of the other guests I've just met, through Instagram or whatever. But it was super fun to interview him and talk about just everything that it takes to recognize that pain can actually be your biggest teacher in life. Which is, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Yeah. People don't like that. They don't want to hurt. They don't want to be in pain. But you sometimes, not sometimes, I would say all the time, if you sit and listen to the pain will talk back to you, because pain's going to manifest in other ways. Maybe it's your inner child calling out to you or whatever it is. So,
yeah. And it's funny because I was just talking to my sister the other day. And she's like, oh, her husband's away for work at the moment, so she's kind of single mumming it. And she's like, and my back went out. I said, oh, well, that makes sense because you're not having the normal level of support that you have. So typically, you know, your back's linked to how much support you've got around you and that sort of thing. And she's like, yeah, she goes, that makes so much sense. I never thought about that. And she goes, but then I got offered help. I won't say who, but I got offered help to come over for the weekend, but she doesn't gel with that person. And then she's like, I rather just put up with the with the sore back. And I was like, well, you know, it's the support we choose that is more fulfilling to us than having this thrown on us and told how we're meant to be, you know, how you're meant to feel. And, you know, and then it comes back to that inner child of, you know, most of us are just little kids going, I just want a hug and for you to tell me I did a great job and that you love me. And instead you're just like, oh yeah, move on, you know, move on, just bottle that up. Don't cry. Don't, you know, oh, you fell down. Be brave, you know, just don't cry about it. It's like, but it hurt. I want to cry, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Because the pain and these feelings, and like, we have to feel, you know, and I think that's one thing that's hard for people to understand, especially if you grew up in an environment where maybe your parents shut you down or whatever it is, right? I think just even as a society, sometimes we think that we don't need to feel these emotions or that some of these emotions are bad. And I think that as long as you're not allowing certain emotions to rule your life, you know, like if you're just continuously living in anger, that's not good for you. That's not good for anybody else. But you're going to have some angry moments, you know, like even today I was going through some stuff and I'm like, I'm feeling really angry. And then I was trying to understand, well, why? What is underneath? You know, why am I feeling angry? And then just allowing them to flow through you. It becomes kind of a skill that you have to learn, right? Like just like emotional regulation. It's like you got to practice it. It's not easy, but you can get to that. And I think ultimately it's important that we teach, you know, future generations, like our children and others, that it's okay to feel these emotions, because that's a huge component of healing, and recognizing that any pain that you have, physical, mental, it's just something that you need to acknowledge instead of try to hide or try to get relief, try to just swallow a pill, you know, because that's just going to keep pushing it all down inside of you.
Yeah. And definitely like, I just kept hearing, feel it to heal it, feel it to heal it, feel it to heal it. Because if you're not sitting in that feeling, and I think a lot of people don't realize how you were talking about with chronic pain, that you realize there's an emotional underpinning. That's for everything. Anything that happens in our body actually has an underlying emotional component. And we don't talk about it enough. It's like the missing piece of the puzzle when, you know, something keeps bothering you. It's like, well, hang on, where does this go? And there's so many amazing books now. You can even use like a cheat sheet, and you can go look up what's wrong with you. I say what's wrong with you, but look up what's bothering you, and then say, oh, you know, this is because I feel unworthy. Oh yeah, that's a bit resonant right now, you know. So you know.
Yeah, I love those books. And I was just presented with those recently, like over the past couple of years. And man, if I could have had them, you know, like 10 years ago, that would have been really nice. I don't know if I would have like received it in the way that I received it now. You know, I wasn't as receptive, but it's crazy. I look at these and it might not always be 100%. You know, you might think like, oh, that's, you know, but really you're right. It's like a cheat sheet. And I love looking at these books, and I feel like it's one of the best ways for me. It's become almost like my go-to instead. So for example, if I get some sort of physical ailment, like one day I felt like my tooth was kind of hurting, like I was having tooth pain. And so instead of going to Google or, you know, like kind of starting to fret in my mind or, you know, do something else, I thought, I'm going to see what it says in the book. And, you know, with like your teeth or the mouth or things like that, like it talks about speaking or what are you holding back? And it's just really cool because it gives you this example of, or it gives you a way to care for yourself that you might not have done in the first place, because it's just talking about you and what you're feeling. And does this resonate? And if it does, then how can you take that information and use it differently instead of going to the store and buying some, numbing, and not to say that like, if you have a serious medical issue, you shouldn't, seek any medical care.
Yeah.
But I think if you can start to think of things with emotionally, like at their emotional root first, you're going to start to notice patterns and things in your life. And then it's like, oh, it's actually kind of fun. I enjoy it. I love books like that. And just kind of thinking like, ooh, what does this mean about me? Or like, what part of me is this? My inner teenager? Is this my like inner toddler, inner baby? So it's fun to play around with and just look inside and say, I'm caring for you. Like, I'm caring for you. I'm here. I'm listening. Because that inner child is literally still there. And that's something that I have just known to be so true, especially as a mother.
Yeah.
Because it seems like my kids just mirror me.
Yep. They sure do.
Yeah.
And they love to push your buttons. They're so good at finding your triggers and things that you need to heal. And I know it's funny you brought that up, because I don't know what it is this week. I've had so many conversations on social media with different people about it's okay to get angry as a mum and not feel guilty about it afterwards if you own it. Like, have that conversation with your child and say, Mummy was feeling really angry in that moment because of X, Y, and Z. I apologize for yelling at you. You didn't need that, but it's okay to be angry, and then you're teaching them to own their emotions, but then also to understand where they've come from and how to react in a way that's not going to trigger everyone else around them, essentially.
Yeah, that's so important, because I think it's so easy for us to feel like we need to be perfect in our parenting, in our mothering, just in life. And how are we supposed to be perfect when, we're just not. We're human, and it's okay to experience these emotions. And I love that too. I think in a book I read, it calls, something like that a repair effort, is because, or if maybe that's not the right term, but you can make these repairs with your children or with other people, right? Like, say you get angry at a coworker or whatever it is, you can go back and say, hey, I'm really sorry. I was not regulated. I was struggling. That wasn't okay for me to lash out on you. Yeah. But it's just a part of being human. And I think when you're a child and you don't have those repairs with your parents or whoever it is, that's really damaging. Yeah. So it's not like you can just freely be angry, and like hurt everybody else. You've got to own up and own it.
Yeah, but sometimes, and I get it, because sometimes you're on your last nerve because all things have gone wrong that day or whatever. You're just having one of those days where somehow the water got spilled all over the table. You clean that up, and then the bowl of cereal ends up somehow all over the table, and you think, I just cleaned that up. And then all of a sudden, for us, the rabbit's running through, and then there's poo everywhere, and you're like, okay, hang on, I just need a minute. And then,
please let me breathe.
Exactly. And you can feel this little volcano building up, and then all of a sudden it's like one tiny thing and you go, rah, and it's like, oh no, that was really unnecessary.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Completely been there. The mom life, 100%.
Oh gosh. Yeah. And and even when you were saying before with the colleague, I know I had that when I used to run my business. I took out my anger about a situation on one of the staff, and I actually went into her like in person, because we were doing this email, almost an email, like you could feel the energy behind our emails were like rah, rah. And I went into her and I said, I just want to apologize, it's not your fault. I said, it's just the situation I'm in, and I took it out on you, and I didn't mean to do that. And she's like, I actually respect you so much more for owning that. And I'm like, thank you, because we, like you said, we're human, we're imperfectly perfect, and it's just, we have to give ourselves grace. We don't have to show up 100% every day. We just need to show up.
Yep, we need to show up, and we need to be authentic, and we need to be open to the fact that we're not always going to feel good. And I think that's one of the other main themes with, going back to talking about my series with the chronic pain, and just those concepts of sometimes you have to sit in discomfort and the reality for me is that I still get migraines. They're not as often as they used to be, but I still get them. And the way I react to them now is completely different than, 5 years ago when I was just going crazy because it was like, I can't live with this. And so that's part of it too, just in general, and regulating your emotions and things, is that you're going to have crappy days and crappy moments because you're human, and it's not fun, but it's the reality of life. And it's just, if you don't have those, then you wouldn't even know what the beautiful, amazing, perfect moments are like, because you didn't have the really tough stuff to deal with.
Yeah. How do you experience the highs when you've never had the lows? Yeah, there's no, there's no balance or contrast there. But then also, how do you grow as a soul if you have no challenges? Like, if we knew how to get from A to Z without doing the middle, I think some people would happily choose the jumping the middle bit. But at the same time, then you have to start again and go through it all again because you haven't healed anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's crazy because I was thinking about this too. And I can say this full truth, completely honest. I am so grateful for my chronic pain. Like, I am so grateful for my migraines. And I just, it's crazy that I'm saying that. I remember years ago, I worked with a girl and she had migraines, and she said that they were a part of her and that they made her who she was. And I just thought, I was like, you are insane. I just did not get it. And she was a massage therapist too. So now it makes sense because she's all energy and things. But I can totally say wholeheartedly that my migraines are what propelled my healing. And if it weren't for those migraines, who knows where I would be, right? So we have these really difficult situations, just like the traumatic experience I had with my mother that propelled me to start my podcast. It's like sometimes the hardest things in life end up being the most beautiful gifts. And it's just such a crazy thing, but it's beautiful because you can transform and you can recover. And that's the beauty of the healing journey, is that you take the broken and you just turn it into this beautiful painting and picture of whatever it is, because the pieces are still there. You're picking them up and you're putting them in different spots now, and I just love the fact that it's amazing that we can heal together. Like, just talking with you is so fun because it's like we can communicate, and we live in this time where with social media and the internet that we can share our stories and communicate with people across the world. Yeah, it's so cool.
It's not so lonely. Like, I have clients who are a lot older, and they're like, when I was going through, my awakening, or when I was going through my healing journey, or whatever it might be, they're like, there was no one. We'd go to the library and try and find some books, and the whole library might have 2 things in it, and then you fortunately meet somebody because the universe has thrown that person on your path, right, to say, hey, I'm here to help you. But they're like, you guys have it easy now. You've got all these connections, you can do webinars online, you can study online, the internet. Yeah. Even I was at this workshop with this lady, and she's a naturopath, and she said she found this AI technology which basically helps record her sessions and write everyone's session plans up and create treatment plans. And she said it takes so much effort off me that I can be fully present in the sessions because I'm there, just being there, communicating, and then I can be fully present rather than writing 100 things down and trying to remember everything that I recommended or that I said. And I was like, well, that's the beauty of technology and how it's evolved. And yes, it's got some downsides, but at the same time, if you look how you can heal with it, like on many levels, and here we are using it to share our message to the world too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many things about the internet and about just the way, our world right now, that we can take as a tool to spread good and kindness and love and empathy and all these things that are part of healing. And so it's really a blessing, right? It's a blessing. Yes, there's some things that are not great, but to be able to communicate with others and not do it